Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to Harry's Highlights. On this video, we're going to talk about the book Indistractable. Now, this is all about understanding the real reason why we do things against our best interest. It's about how we always seem to find distractions in important tasks. It's basically a guide on how to stay focused in a world filled with noise and distractions. So some of the philosophies I want to talk about in this is understanding like the two types of people there. There's the people that have their attention controlled by others, and the indistractables, the people who own their time and future. They decide that this is what they're going to do and they follow through on it. The other people that sort of allow anything to sway them off course, whether it be their environment, whether it be other people, whether it be their own self. Those two types of people are how you basically categorize the people that get things done and the people that seem to procrastinate and take a long time before they hopefully get things done. So understanding there's certain things you need to understand or embody. Parts of that is that distractions will always exist. Managing them is our responsibility. So it's not about removing distractions as such. It's about understanding that there's only so much you can control. Even if you put yourself in a completely silent room with nothing on the walls, nothing else available there except you, yourself, pad, pen, and a table. Do you see how, even though you remove so many distractions, that you would still find, if you wanted to, you could still find distractions? Tear paper out and, make paper airplanes. Start scribbling on nothing, You start chewing on your pencil. Or even, pulling apart your pen, putting it back together again. You would find distractions. So it's not always about removing them. It's about taking responsibility to manage them. And it's understanding that, when you look at that reason why, there's a root cause of behaviour. And the root cause of behaviour with distractions is to relieve discomfort. Whatever you're doing is starting to become monotonous or boring or, the same thing. And you decide you're feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling, to whatever degree, it's no longer enjoyable. So you get distracted. You start to, I look here or there or that. Anything else becomes better than what I'm doing currently. Because you want to relieve that discomfort. So you look for the triggers. You look for how or why or what happened to cause that. To produce that behaviour, which then made you want to get distracted. It might be that whatever you're doing is boring. Whatever you're doing was, you've heard it before. Whatever you're doing was, repetitive. Normally it's one of those sorts of, it comes around along the or under the category of it no longer became stimulating. It became predictable. It became like there was sort of a pattern to it, and you can recognise that pattern, so you no longer feel stimulated by it. But understand that distractions are an unhealthy escape from reality, because the reason is that if you don't conquer that distraction, if you don't conquer the ways that you need to do to overcome that task, they'll always be there. So if you're walking down a path and then a distraction, something happens and it becomes monotonous, and then you allow a distraction to come in, if you entertain that distraction, you will allow that distraction to always be there. No matter what you do, until you overcome that distraction will keep coming up, keep showing up. So do you see how unhealthy that is? How the healthiest way, the most mature way to handle that is to overcome it. If you always allow it there, it'll always be something that's going to distract you. So mastering distractions is about learning how to deal with discomfort. Because why that distraction is coming in is because you're feeling discomfort and you're allowing that distraction to step in and detour you, take you off course, take you off track. To understand the root of it is that the discomfort. Then what happens is you feel the discomfort, it triggers the feeling of I want to find a distraction, and instead of looking at it as how do I master this discomfort? I'm feeling discomfort, I'm feeling this sort of uncomfortability. Normally I would get distracted. No, to master it, I need to overcome this distraction. I need to basically master discomfort and how to handle with it. So you have to look for the emotion before the distraction. When you can identify that, you can recognize here's where I'd normally go look out the window, I'd go for a walk, I'd make a coffee, whatever it is, anything and everything but the task at hand. So instead of giving into that emotion, I need to make the decision that I'm going to, no, I decided that at the end of 15 minutes is when I allow myself to be distracted. At the end of an hour is when I allow myself to be distracted. I'll give into that distraction. But before that, I won't. And eventually that'll get better, just with anything, it'll get better with time. So parts of the ways that they, in the book, it suggests is about understanding you've got to reimagine your task. When it becomes boring and monotonous, instead of running away from the pain and that discomfort, You need to pay close attention to the task at hand and find new challenges in it, whatever that may be. Finding new ways to find it, make it more stimulating or more fun, but at the very least still progressing on the task. When you get distracted, you stop putting effort and time into the task, so progression stops. At least if you're finding new ways and reimagining your task at hand, you're still making progress on the task, which is something is always better than nothing. But if you are finding yourself, getting distracted easily, or finding yourself getting off task, whatever it may be, you need to be your own friend. See, self-compassion makes us more resilient to letdowns. If you catch yourself getting distracted again, or if you find yourself that's like, damn it, Harry, I'm distracted again, the self-talk you have is so crucial to how well you're going to handle this. If it's constantly negative, you'll then find new ways to discount your distraction instead of accepting it, admitting it, and overcoming it. But if your self-talk is positive and it's like, hey, you got distracted again, like at least we caught it before it got too bad, before it got worse. I need to become refocused on the task at hand. I need to commit to finishing this task. That more positive self-talk will help you to become more resilient to letdowns that will potentially happen in the future. Then the other part of it is understanding that, there's a great saying. It says that if I know how you spend your time, I know what might become of you. See, when you understand that, is if you recognize someone has 10 hours in a day and they spend 8 hours of it doing unproductive work, you can recognize what might become of them. They're not necessarily going to become a more productive, efficient, results-producing person. They're more likely to become a person that's probably going to be more easily distracted, lazy, not produce results, probably not get much done. Then if you look at somebody else and how they spend their time, it's quite structured or, organized, or at the very least, scheduled. Then you can understand that, they might be a high performer, they might be a medium or average performer, but at the very least you know that they're going to perform and produce some sort of results. And it's a great saying that if you don't plan your day, someone else will plan it for you. And what that means is that means that they will take advantage of you and your time. Because if you're not going to manage your time, they'll say, since you're not using it, I will borrow you to manage my time better. I will delegate tasks, I'll use you to compound my results, because while you're doing nothing, you might as well be doing something for me. I'll take care of this, you take care of that, I get the results I want. But if you plan your day and somebody goes, hey, can you do this? Or hey, why are you doing nothing? It's that you remove that option for them. And you remove the option for you to have your time spent somewhere else instead of on your own goals, your own progress, and your own journey. So part of that is understanding that you need to start with why. You need to start with why you're doing something rather than what you're doing. Because why is emotional. It's about your values. And your values are like a guiding star that helps you navigate your choices. If you look at how hundreds of years ago, how we navigated the world, when we wanted to explore new areas, new land, new countries, new continents, it was all by sea and by ship. And how before even when we had compasses, we used certain things that would help. We used the stars to help us guide our direction in life, in the journey. So if we treat our values as the guiding star, it means that when we're making a decision, when we're deciding on what area we're going to move towards or how we're going to guide ourselves on this journey, your values is like that guiding star, which will always bring you back I'm distracted. No, this is why I was doing it, so I need to come back and start putting myself in this direction. So when you do that, when you start with why, when you start with that value, you're emotionally pulled towards it rather than logically pushed towards it. You feel compelled to move towards that rather than feeling forced to move towards it. See, the next thing you can do is focus on inputs, not outcomes. It's about understanding that controlling the controllables. Not showing up guarantees failure, but showing up at least gives yourself the chance to be able to become successful. That's something you can control. You can't always control the result, but you can control the effort you put into it. And that's what it talks about focusing on the inputs, focusing on what you can do to make it more likely or stack the odds in your favor of something happening. So to quickly summarize, is understanding that the Indistractable is about understanding the real reasons why we do things against our best interests. It's a guide to how to stay focused in a world filled with noise and distractions. Understanding that there's two types of people. People that have their attention controlled by others, and the Indistractables, people who own their time and future. See, distractions will always exist. Managing them is our responsibility. The root cause of behavior is the desire to prevent discomfort or relieve discomfort. So, recognizing the triggers that cause that and managing them. Distraction is an unhealthy escape from reality. It's instead of managing it, it's about escaping from it. But then when you return, it's still going to be there. But to master distraction, you have to learn to deal with discomfort effectively. You've got to look for the emotion before the distraction happens so you can better prepare for what's going to happen next. You feel this emotion, you feel boredom, and then all of a sudden you know that you'll normally allow yourself to become distracted. If you recognize the emotion, you can then prevent yourself from becoming distracted. Controlling the controllables. Next one there's about part of that technique was to reimagine your task. Instead of running away from the pain, pay close attention to it and find new challenges in that task to re-stimulate yourself. But when you do find yourself falling off task, falling off track and becoming distracted, be your own friend. Self-compassion makes us more resilient to letdowns. The great saying that says, if I know how you spend your time, I know what might become of you. Understanding that if you don't plan your days, someone else will plan them for you. You've got to start with why. Why is it emotion? And why do something is the emotion behind it? And then it's a value. And your values are like a guiding star that navigates you, helps you navigate your choices. It's the difference between pulled towards something rather than being forced and pushed towards it. You've got to focus on inputs, not outcomes. That's controlling the controllables. You might not be able to control the result, but you can control the effort you put into it. And lastly, was understanding that if you can find a way to have pre-commitment to prevent distractions, decide I will spend 15 minutes on this task and then I will give into a distraction, then eventually you'll get better and better at it. It's a great thing understanding that successful people aren't less impulsive. They just take drastic measures or steps to keep themselves focused. If you can embody that, if you can follow those same rules, regulations, those same tasks, those same ways they do things, you yourself can then also become indistractable. Now, I'll be making a lot more of these videos for this training series to help you with your personal development goals. That's all for now though. So until next time, leave a comment below on what you like the most and look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode of Harry's Highlights.